1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast, is proudly sponsored by The Terrace, the home of retro and fan culture sports merchandising. Check out their range of Forest merch by visiting theterracestore.com or visit them on social media.
The 1865 Match Report.
Hello and welcome to the 1865 Match Report. Well, that was dramatic, wasn't it? Millwall 0, Forest 1, it finished, and the Reds securing a dramatic late victory in South London thanks to a 91st minute goal from Lewis Grabban, tapping home from close range after a shot from Philip Zinkernagel was saved, fell to him in front of goal, and he sent nearly 2,000 Forest fans at the New Den wild. And brilliant moment, and another dramatic but much needed victory secured for Forest. Overall, the performance was a mixed bag. Forest in the first half were not really at it and struggled to get anything going, particularly for the first 40 minutes. The movement wasn't great, the passing was off, and a very disjointed performance, and it was Millwall who looked the most likely to make anything happen in that first half. But Forest did come back into it just before half-time, and the big chance, Ryan Yates had a shot from inside the box, first time saved by Bartosz Bilkowski. And from there, Forest grew more into the game, and particularly in that second half, they were more on the front foot. Passing was much improved, a lot more incisive. Yates, Garner in particular, were probing well in the midfield, and Forest were far more threatening and creating more opportunities. But it still remained a very end-to-end game, with Millwall going close on a few occasions, Forest missing a host of chances, going close but not quite finding the goal until right at the end when Grabban took the ball away and gave Steve Cooper's side a precious 3 points. I'm joined by Tom to reflect on the game. So, Tom, we had a late goal last week against Arsenal for a memorable win. We've had another this week, even later. They're putting us through the ringer at the moment, Forest, aren't they?
Yeah, and Lewis Grabban again with the goal, and he's just showing us it. He's just turned 34 this week, how valuable he is to the side. And he seems to be playing with a real happiness in his game, and he seems all around like content about his. I mean, he started the game today, but he didn't start against Arsenal. He's content with his role, and obviously playing him in certain games and not in others. And I think he's so valuable that we need to sign him up ASAP, because I mentioned numerous times before, while we've got somebody of the quality of Lewis Grabban, we need to keep him at this club. Why he's still doing it at this level? And again, he's another goal today, and yeah, he's had a brilliant week. And happy birthday, Lewis, for this week, because he's had a brilliant week for us.
And we'll come on to his influence a bit later. We'll start though with the team news that came out. So the big change from the Arsenal Cup win was Grabban back in the starting 11, but Philip Zinkernagel dropping to the bench, which at first glance meant Keenan Davis and Lewis Grabban playing up top together, or so it seemed. But watching the game, it appeared that Grabban was playing a slightly more withdrawn role. So Zinkernagel on the bench, Grabban coming in, but Grabban just playing that slightly dropped off role behind Keenan Davis. As the tactical change goes, Tom, how did you think that one worked out for Forest? Did it make sense?
Definitely, because when you play against a Millwall side, you know you're going to be in a battle. It doesn't matter if they're towards the bottom of the league or near the top of the league, it's always going to be a battle at the Den. And with Keenan Davis, he's got a bit of power to his game, well, a lot of power to his game. And with Grabban, he's just got that nous of getting the ball and obviously dropping off and obviously keeping it and playing other people in to the game. So, yeah, it made sense to me, because I think the Zinkernagel, he had a decent game against Arsenal, but against Millwall, you need to have players who are going to stand up to the battle, what Millwall give you. And you've got Grabban, who's been there, done it, and he knows what the New Den's all about, because he's had 3 years there as a player. And Keenan Davis, well, he did ruffle a few feathers against Arsenal last week. So it made sense to me. Yeah, it was a good tactical move by Steve Cooper.
Saying that, in the first half, Forest were not at their best. It did seem like almost a bit of an after the Lord Mayor show with the Arsenal win last week. And in this first half, Forest were not really at it, were they? Struggling to get any foothold in the game.
Yeah, I mean, Millwall's one of those places where you've got to settle quick, or if you don't, you're going to be come under a bit of trouble. And in the pre-match press conference, Colin Frey did allude to Steve Cooper about the dangers of after Lord Mayor's show after the great win against Arsenal last week. And Steve Cooper did mention it, that hopefully it's not going to be the case and the players will be informed about what's expected against Millwall, etc. But as the match kicked off, I think quite a few players just wasn't on the game for the first 20 minutes. A lot of sloppy passes. We couldn't string two passes together. And 9 times out of 10, when you see a Forest side, especially away from home, the first 10 minutes, you know what kind of afternoon you're going to be in for. And with that, you think, oh, here we go. It's going to be an absolute anticlimax compared to what it was like last Sunday. And I thought, here we go again, and Forest need to get their act together, because if they don't and they go a goal behind, it's so hard to obviously get a goal back against Millwall, especially with the fans behind them at the new den. But Forest weathered that storm. I wouldn't say well, but they weathered it in that first 20 minutes. And Forest then did get a foothold in the game. And when it was coming up to the 40-minute mark, Forest were in the ascendancy, and you just didn't want half-time to come, because Forest were like getting into their mojo a bit. But obviously half-time come, and it come into a bit of a bad time for us. But fortunately, we did go into the half-time break 0-0 and didn't concede.
That was the key thing. And like you say there, it's about keeping it tight at Millwall and not losing the game before it's really started, because you know you're in for a direct afternoon with balls coming into the box and strong physical play with Millwall, getting the ball in from out wide. And as long as you can hold firm, you do give yourself a chance to get something from the game. We had the chance just before half-time. Yates, first-time shots that Bilkowski saved. If you were being a little critical, it was straight at the keeper, but it was a sign that Forest were back in the game and had a threat to take into the second half, which they managed to do, and they managed to sustain that foothold in the game. How did you think that, in particular, the Davis and Grabban combination worked in that second half? Did it help to get Forest a bit more into the game and probably a bit higher up the field as well, because they were struggling to get out of their own half in the opening 45?
Yeah, I just thought that Keenan Davis just gives you that bit of he is an asset up there, and he just gives you that bit of an out ball where he can keep the ball in. He's got a bit of like pace about him, and like I says, it did work, because it gave like the Forest back five a breather and got them further up the field. So with him playing and Grabban playing, who's quite good at holding the ball up and obviously playing people in, it did work in our favour. So yeah, I thought Keenan Davis had a decent afternoon without it being spectacular.
And around about the hour mark, I think the game really sprang into life, and we ended up with a breathless last half an hour with chances galore and both teams potentially going on to win the game. Some of the big chances that Forest had, Ryan Yates had a header cleared off the line. Steve Cook close as well with a header that was saved. There was a moment with Brennan Johnson got in down the right-hand side, puts a fantastic ball across, but it's just a few yards in front of Grabban, and he can't get on the end of it. And also Grabban had a glancing header well saved by Bilkowski deep in the second half. And at that point, it did feel like Forest were just not going to get anything from this game in terms of a win. They were throwing everything at Millwall in that second half. The pressure was building and building. You could sense the crowd in the stadium, the Forest fans behind that goal, just willing the ball to go into the net. But it wasn't happening for them, was it?
No, I was like flicking through the games which was happening on Sky Sports, and obviously watching the stream, and you did have to keep remembering that Forest were 10 minutes behind everybody else because of obviously the delay in the kickoff. So at points I thought, Forest have still got time, but as the game was going, I thought, it's going to be one of those games like the Huddersfield game, which was a bit of a deja vu, where I had no end of chances, half chances, and didn't put the ball in the back of the net. And so when it was happening, I thought, oh, here we go. It's just going to be one of those games where it's just not Forest Day. They've obviously started the game pretty slow, but got into it, and I thought, oh, here we go again. And but no, thankfully we did get the win. But it's kind of funny because when you like watching on Twitter and you're watching a stream and it was similar to the Bristol City game a few months ago, thinking Forest have scored and thought, bloody hell, it's one of those, have they scored? And you're just waiting for the stream to catch up and everything. Then you see Grabban prod home, and obviously he's celebrating in front of the 2,000 or so Forest fans. So, no, it was a nice feeling when you do get that stream come through, and obviously notifications on Twitter that Forest have snatched it at the end. So, but I thought it was just going to be one of those days today, a bit like the Huddersfield game at home, where it wasn't going to be our day, but thankfully it was. Yeah,
and I would argue that today's result is a reward for what happened in the Huddersfield game, with nice football, 23 shots at goal, but losing the game. Whereas today, Forest have managed to, I don't want to say snatch it because that makes it sound like it was undeserved. I think Forest were worthy of the win, but to secure it so late on and with just seconds left on the clock really was fantastic.
Yeah, and another thing is seeing Gary Rowett's face at the end, knowing that Forest has snatched it at the end. But apart from the first 20 minutes, like Forest just keep on going and going. They don't know when they beat, and the fitness levels is probably one of the fittest sides we've seen in recent years. They just keep going and going and going, and they don't know when the end is, if you know what I mean. They just keep going until the referee blows the whistle. But no, it's brilliant, and Steve Cooper's really got everybody moving in the same direction. And it's quite hard sometimes when you might get a certain aspect of like personnel at Forest where they might moving in the direction he wants, but not everybody else. But at the moment, as a collective, the fans are on the side and everything's going really well, and the players are playing with like a real zest in the play, and it's just brilliant to watch at the moment.
And when you're winning games like this, it feels great anyway to win a game so late, but it adds to that collective feeling and it gets people on board. It's like something's happening here. We're winning games like this and there's something going on.
And another thing, we've got like a really, really crap record at the New Den anyway. Even under like the likes of Billy Davis, his first spell here, I don't think we hardly won any games at the New Den. And I think we've only won 3 times there since it was built in 93. So, yeah, it is a surprise when you win down there, because, like I say, it's not the easiest place to go to. But no, it's really nice to come away with 3 points, and especially right at the end, and especially against a team run by the likeable not Gary Rowers.
Makes it a bit sweeter, doesn't it? Just before we come on to, we'll talk a bit more about the goal. Brice Samba again was excellent today. Made some big saves, particularly in the last 10 minutes. The first one with the free kick coming in from Malone from the right-hand side. It's one of those awkward free kicks that if you let it bounce, it's going to go flying into the far corner, especially if nobody gets a touch. Nobody did get a touch on this one, but Samba somehow gets his hand or his arm to it and gets it away from goal, and it loops up. It comes to a fore, but he blasts the ball over after he picks it up, and that was a big moment in the game just to keep Forest in it. And then again, another brilliant save, top class from a fore to palm the ball away and get it away. Again, another brilliant save, and just shows the value that he brings to the team. And there you could argue that's a match-winning collection of saves that he's delivered today.
Yeah, and another thing, it's like, especially the easy Sunday he had last week against Arsenal, where he hardly saw the ball. So to do that this week, thinking, what's that coming towards me? No, he's back to his best, Brice Samba. I mean, Steve Cooper's really got him back on his game, because last season, I think Brice Samba would be probably one of the first to admit that last season he wasn't great, and whether that was the fact that there was no fans in the stadium, and it was a bit of an eerie situation and experience to play in. But no, since Chris Hughton's left and Steve Cooper's come in, he's really back to his A game, Brice Samba, and he's made a couple of terrific saves today, and that's, you could say, that's what's won us the game at the end of the day. So no, it is like I said, he's brilliant, Brice Samba, but if you was asking somebody like Roy Keane, it's his job.
But he does it so well. Philip Zinkernagel came off the bench for Keenan Davis around the 70-minute mark, and he played a big role in the winning goal. We'll talk through it. So Millwall have a throw-in. Joe Worrell beats the Millwall player to it, nicks it away. It comes to Brennan Johnson. He carries it a good 30 yards forward at pace, threads a lovely little ball round the defender for Zinkernagel to come onto. His shot is parried by Bilkowski, but it falls to Grabban in front of goal, and there's a defender on the line despairingly trying to get it away, but Grabban steers it home for the win, and what a moment that was. I think having watched the last 20 minutes of that game where Forest could have quite easily won it, could have also lost it with the chances that Millwall had, didn't seem like anything was going to happen for Forest today in terms of goal scoring. And then that goes in from Grabban. Absolutely brilliant moment. I only wish I was in amongst it in the stands today, because that must have been incredible.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's like I've been fortunate to go to a few games this season where I've actually been in the crowd. Like, for example, went to Swansea when we won 4-1 and when we beat Birmingham 3-0. And it's great to be in there. And unfortunately, I couldn't go today because I had other things on. But no, when you go spend your money and everything, and you go to a tough place like Millwall and everything, it's just so sweet when a goal like that goes in. That's why we like football, and that's why we go to away games, because just to do that at somebody else's ground, it's absolutely brilliant. And obviously a really nice club like Millwall.
Yeah, but it's a great trait to have, this, isn't it? That Forest have got now, this ability to stay in games, keep going, keep pushing, no matter what's happening, and they're getting their rewards for it. You think of the points won at Bristol City with the late goals, more late goals today. There was also QPR off the top of my head was another one where we got the point right at the end. The mentality now that this team has, it just makes them enjoyable to watch, because you know that they're always capable of getting something from a game. Under Chris Hughton, you might have been tempted to leave 10 minutes early if Forest were behind. Now, with Steve Cooper, you feel like something's going to happen, and there's every chance Forest can get something from a game right till the very last second.
I think the key phrase is we're not pushovers anymore. The amount of times you go to away grounds and you think Forest won't get anything today, they're not up for a battle. And Forest are up for a battle these days, and they can go anywhere and really put on a decent performance. And I mean, I'm not saying for 1 minute we're going to get promoted this season, but games like this, your games against your Bristol Cities away on a Tuesday night, your games against QPR on a Friday night, games like Millwall today, these are the games what you look back on a season and think, we've got a point there, we've got 3 points there, etc., etc. And they're the games where you think that's what's gained us promotion, or that's what's gained us a playoff spot. And we haven't done that for a long, long time. I mean, under Paul Hart, when we got into the playoffs, we had a really good home record. And from the top of my head, from the January to the end of the season, I think we only won 1-2 games tops away from home. We might have got a few draws in that, but we're actually winning away from home. And if you got a decent home record and you're making the City Ground a fortress and you manage to get points on the road, it's just stating the obvious, but it just makes that huge difference. And I mean, we don't want to go on like a broken record, but what could have been if Steve Cooper was in at the first game against Coventry, for example?
Yeah,
where we've been then. But it's one of those, like, hindsight's a great thing. But no, if he gets like a few more players in who he actually wants, and they get up and running to the speed and style he wants to play, it's going to be a really exciting few months the season. And you always get a team what I wouldn't say limps through or comes through the back door getting into the playoffs, but at the moment, to how Forest are playing, and if they can keep it going, then why not? Why can't we be in the? Because we can show that we can really mix it in the teams where there's a battle, and we did it today, and we've kept a clean sheet, and we'll come away with 3 points courtesy of the man at the moment, which is Lewis Grabban.
It's that momentum, isn't it, as well? Like, it feels like Forest are building that momentum, and they're really, really building towards a big finish towards the end of the season, which hopefully is the case. They're doing it as well, playing good football. So when they're behind or when things are not going their way, they're still sticking to principles of playing good football, keeping the ball on the floor, good movement off the ball, and the passing at times today I thought was excellent. Ryan Yates in particular was playing some lovely balls through.
Yeah, and you just took the words out of my mouth where we're playing with a style, we're playing with a purpose, and we're sticking with principles. And I mean, okay, it's nearly 30 years since Brian Clough left the club, but his principles of how football, I know football moves over time and obviously you have different types of playing, but how we're playing at the moment, it's what we've been wanting to see. And it is a pleasure to watch, it really is. And you kind of, in recent years, when Forest's been passing it back around the back four or back five, it's like Forest can't do it, but they've got confidence, and that you can tell that's been drilled into them. And when they are passing it around, it's brilliant. I mean, they're really getting out of some tight areas as well. I mean, I think there was an occasion last week. There was 3 players around Jed Spence. He got past them all and got hacked down by, I think it's Cedric or someone like that. And so they're playing with like a real purpose. And that was against a team who've got aspirations of being in the top 4 of the Premier League. So it just goes to show that Forest are playing with that like bit of swagger at the moment. And we haven't had a lot of it in recent years.
Yeah, and Brian Laws on Radio Nottingham, he was saying the play on the edge of the 18-yard box from Forest was as good as he's seen from a Forest team for a while. Shows you the confidence that's running through them and this belief to go and play in this style. And it's not something we've seen from Forest teams for a good number of years now, and long may it continue. Lewis Grabban, obviously a lot of question marks over his future with his contract and potentially expiring, and he could be leaving the club if Forest don't do something about that contract. Should the club get him signed up? I think based on today's performance, he's made that decision for them, hasn't he?
Well, it's the week he's had, and beyond that, he's been absolutely, since he's come through the door. I mean, he had that bit of a lean spell under Martin O'Neill, injuries or form, whatever, but he's been brilliant for us. And I've mentioned this before. When you've got a player like Lewis Grabban, and he's yours, and it all comes down to what Lewis Grabban wants to do next. If he wants to stay at Forest, then it's a no-brainer, because I think if you do have to replace him, which we will eventually do, because he just turned 34, so obviously he hasn't got many years left in the tank, but he's going to be big shoes to fill. And like I said, why we've got him and he's still scoring at this level, then it's an absolute no-brainer to offer him a new contract, because, like I said, the week he's had has been absolutely phenomenal for us. And it's not only this week, it's this season as a whole, and obviously previous seasons. His value for a club like us, who is absolutely priceless, and decent goal scorers don't grow on trees. So yeah, I'd sign him up, but it all depends what Lewis Grabban wants to do next.
It does, but you would hope that now being on the brink of a playoff place potentially this season, scoring goals against Arsenal in the FA Cup, and the prospect maybe of Premier League football in the future would hopefully keep him around for a while longer, provided, of course, that Forest do want to keep him as well. You look at the influence that he has on the team, not just in terms of his experience and his persona, but little things like today, the ball's coming into his feet, and it's sticking. It's helping Forest move up the pitch and progress. The way he holds onto the ball, and he's not the tallest of strikers, and he's not the burliest, but what he does so well is keep hold of the ball and bring others into play, and that's so vital to, especially away from home on a pitch like Millwall, where you are up against it and you need to be clever with the ball. Grabban just gives us that, doesn't he? On top of his goal scoring and everything else.
He does. He's a real focal point, and he's like a real outball way in terms of like you're giving the ball, and he can keep the ball for a long amount of time, and obviously wait for players to come in, and obviously he'll pop it off to him. So yeah, he's a massive asset, and he might not. A lot of people have like accused him of not being the captain type, but if he leads by example, and you don't know if he might just like have like little subtle chats with like the younger players, and the odd wording might just like spur them on. So and his experiences, obviously he's been there and done it in this league. And obviously you can see that he does look after himself quite well in terms of his fitness and everything. Because okay, last week he come on as a sub, but he started the game and finished the game for the full 90. So and Steve Cooper alluded to it last week that they do have to look after him because he's 34 now and he can't play 3 games in a week. But with having Keenan Davis in there, it just helps Lewis Grabban. And also you got Lyle Taylor in there, who at the moment he's not getting much of a look in, but no doubt he'll be chomping at the bit if Lewis has to have a rest or whatever. And there's only Keenan Davis as the main striker. So, but no, I think, yeah, like I said, if Grabban wants to stay, I think it's a no-brainer of offering him a contract.
Yeah, it's been a memorable week for Grabban and a memorable week for Forest as well. Thanks, Tom. And Forest now are 5 points off the Championship playoffs with that win at Millwall, capping off a tremendous week for the Reds ahead of next weekend and the small matter of the East Midlands derby at the City Ground. We'll be back with you with our match report for that game. But before then, we will have our big pod on the way as well in the week. So do keep your ears out for that one. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the 1865 pod for all of the latest reports and happenings from Forest. Until next time, thank you for listening and goodbye.